has been 20 months since Abba Kabir Yusuf was sworn in as governor of Kano State in northwest Nigeria, one of the biggest states in the country. Governor Yusuf's ascension to power was made possible by the rabid support of the popular Kwankwansia movement, which draws its inspiration from his political godfather and former governor Rabiu Musa Kwankwanso. But there were hiccups along the way, including the crisis over the rightful occupant of the influential emir of Kano's throne. Many analysts have commended Governor Abba Yusuf for demonstrating what they say has been an ability to combine an uncanny administrative acumen with great potential awareness. Well, we are now being joined for a quick look at milestones reached thus far by the current administration in Kano State by the Chief Press Secretary to the Governor, Sanusi Bature. Good day. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.
Thank you very much for having me.
So let's start, with some of the achievements of the current administration and how these achievements have impacted the lives of the people in Kano State. Can you share that with us?
Well, yeah, as you have said earlier, His Excellency has been 20 months old at the Kano Government House, and is a governor who came well prepared because before his assumption to duty as a governor of Kano State, His Excellency has prepared himself very well. The last 2 years before the election, he had a team of experts with himself that have been meeting to develop the blueprint of His Excellency, from which he used as a campaign promises. So it's a 70 pages of a blueprint called My Commitment to Kano, which spelled out the major challenges bedeviling Kano State at that time, because the current administration is an offshoot of the Kwankwansia administration of Senator Rabiu Musa Kwankwanso 2011-2015, from which there was initial assumption that Ganduje, who took over from Kwankwanso, would continue the giant stride of the Kwankwansia administration. But unfortunately, the 8 years of Ganduje have abandoned some of the major project and initiative of Kwankwanso administration. So we were watching Ganduje and we were able to come out with a very cogent blueprint that addressed the major challenges of Kano State at that time. So to begin with, the first agenda of His Excellency Alhaji Abba Kabir Yusuf is education. And the second one is also education. And the third one is education. And education across multiple subsectors of tertiary education, secondary education, and basic education, which is the main foundation of the education. So he inherited a dilapidated system of education with a very scattered classrooms, lack of toilet facilities and water facilities in our primary schools, lack of quality teachers, lack of access to some of the schools, and then the quality of education were so poor at that time. So the first thing he did was to first declare a state of emergency on education in Kano State. And the attention of the government focused more on education because education is the backbone of every society. And to get the education sector reformed is what will allow Kano to achieve its dream. That's the first thing he did. And in the basic education, His Excellency first backed that declaration of state of emergency with an action. An action of allocating 29.5% of the total annual budget for the 2024 fiscal year, the last year. And in 2025, His Excellency allocated 31% of the total budget of Kano State in 2025, because there's nothing you can do without a very strong budget. And even at that budget, he looked at first, if you're talking about education, there's some different approaches. One, the issue of quality of the education sector, the issue of access, because some communities do not have access to existing schools, and then issue of conducive learning atmosphere. So therefore, he first employed 5,000 teachers, 5,000 additional teachers, because all the years of Ganduje, people have been retiring from teaching profession and there was no replacement. So he recruited that 5,000 immediately, who were under the BESDA program of the federal government. And after that, there is now a plan ongoing to employ additional 10,000 teachers that will continue to serve all the schools in Kano State. And then current and policy of the state is to have the teachers train and retrain on various techniques of teaching that meet the global best practice in the teaching profession. Because if you have a teacher who is supposed to also be taught, then you have a big problem. So therefore, you need to prepare him for him to be an impactful teacher that will actually be able to coach the younger ones.
All right, so permit me to come in at this point. I want to find out from you.
Okay.
So what are the challenges that the Kano State governor has actually faced being in this political swimming pool, as I like to call it, because save the Abia State governor, who is also from a different party than the Behemoths, the PDPs, and the APCs. Kano State also belongs to that particular pool, being that you are from NNPP, sorry.
Yes.
And do you face resistance because you do not have federal support, or do you face resistance because probably members of the House of Representatives and also the Senate are not necessarily NNPP people? How has it been navigating the political waters as a very different party from the major parties?
Well, at Kano level, the scenarios are two. At Kano level, we have the overwhelming majority. And to let you know, His Excellency Engineer Abba Kabir Yusuf is the governor with the highest vote across the country. He won election with over 1 million votes. And at the same time, the Kwankwasia movement has the overwhelming support of Kano. So therefore, at Kano level, we don't have problem, because in the 2023 election, we won 2 senators out of 3, 18 House of Reps out of 26, 27 State House of Assembly out of 40. So therefore, the ground is well prepared for every needed support that you want at Kano level. But at the national level, being NNPP has only one governor, and we are in opposition, and what have you, and then the nature of Kano is a politically volatile state because of the nature of the contribution the state gives on behalf of northern Nigeria, because most of the political determinations of the north are actually an imitation of what happens in Kano. So therefore, and the position of the opposition in Kano, which actually focus more on winning Kano than any other state because of the population and the number of votes, is also a big problem for us. So therefore, the divisions was created by unpatriotic Kano people who think those people were rejected in 2023, because for you to have every political structure from councillor to governor to state assembly to whatever, up to presidency, APC has everything it takes to win Kano in 2023, but they lost because they lacked the popularity within the people of Kano. So the people of Kano rejected those politicians. Are the same bunch of politicians who migrated out of Kano to Abuja as a political refugees. They stay in Abuja with the intention to create chaos and problems for Kano so that the governor will not be able to do what he's supposed to do. Alhamdulillah, the governor has been determined and he's focused, and he has been achieving a lot of giant strides in Kano across the education sector, the health sector, the agri, women empowerment, and economic stability for the state. So take an example of what is happening on the Emirates scene. Ganduje was the first in the 21st century, was the first, in recent times, was the first governor to dethrone an emir. He dethroned Emir Sanusi. And Emir Sanusi decided not to even go to court, not to protest. He silently moved out of Kano. He was victimized to go into isolation in a very rural community in Nasarawa State. And he never protested, whether in court or physically, and nobody took a placard in Kano to say that we don't want Sanusi to be dethroned at that time, because he wanted to allow Ganduje do his tenure freely. And at the same time, the current governor, His Excellency Engineer Abba Kabir Yusuf, decided to restore the lost glory of Kano, decided to restore the image of the traditional institution of Kano State. And with that, the State Assembly enacted a law which he assented, and after the assenting of that law, which gave him the opportunity to reappoint or reinstate Emir Sanusi back to the throne of Kano. And it was done in a very legal manner, because everybody accepted that the governor Until today, the governor retains the exclusive right to dethrone, reinstate, or appoint an emir within the geography of Kano State, within the 44 local government. And he does that within the confines of the law. But unfortunately, those people have been agitating how they can use the former emir, the dethroned emir Aminu, to make chaos, to create political tension in Kano for no reason. Yes, so therefore, the appeal court has just settled that course because it's very clear that Federal High Court doesn't have jurisdiction to entertain issues related to chieftaincy affairs, and we believe the judiciary has been fair to us, and I'm sure, definitely the Supreme Court will also give us justice in that direction. And Kano has been peaceful because Emir Sanusi and the governor of Kano decided not to respond to what they have been trying to do, because they wanted the state government to respond to their agitations so that there will be tension, there will be crisis in Kano. Kano has been peaceful. I think Kano is the most peaceful state among the northwestern states. So the thing in disguise, they wanted to distract the governor. And the governor refused to be distracted because Kano is so important. A state with a population of over 20 million people, with a budget size of less than 1 trillion. So you can imagine you need an extra careful governor that can coordinate affairs of the state.
But it seems that some people in Kano State, believe that the fight between Rabiu Kwankwanso and Umar Ganduje has actually cost Kano State a lot, because Dr. Abomomin Jibrin is calling for urgent reconciliation between these two men, saying that it is necessary in a bid to move Kano State forward. So I'm just wondering, how has this conflict between Rabiu Musa Kwankwanso and Umar Ganduje, how has it affected the government of Governor Abba Yusuf, if it has in any way?
Well, like I said earlier, the politics of Kano is so different, and it's so unfortunate that Ganduje, at about 80 years, will continue to participate in a positive, in a very negative part of the politics. And as a former governor, he has the social responsibility to allow Kano to remain in peace, to allow the prosperity of Kano. Unfortunately, Ganduje has been fighting Kwankwaso since the first day he assumed office as a governor of Kano State in 2015. And in 2019, Abba Kabir was the candidate for the PDP at that time. And he won the election with a clear margin of over 100,000. And there was manipulation of the inconclusive, which returned Ganduje for the second term. And from that time, he began to fight with the governor Abba Kabir Yusuf, not Kwankwaso. Now that Governor Abba Kabir Yusuf refused to be distracted, he has been doing what it takes to make Kano great again. Now Ganduje, not only governor, not only Kwankwaso, Ganduje is now my fighting mate. Ganduje is fighting me, Sanusi, because we are from the same constituency, from the same local government, from the same village with the Ganduje. I'm sure you must have read in some of the national dailies that Ganduje wanted me arrested. So what I'm trying to say is that if Ganduje can descend so low to fight with me, just an ordinary person, an aide of a governor, being a former governor, being an acting national chairman of a ruling party, I think is something that calls for really an advice for him to really focus on what he's supposed to do. And the fight of two giants politicians, Ganduje, Kwankwaso, and there's Shekarau on the other side, the three of them are like the leading politicians, are supposed to be the leading politicians. But probably because of the lack of coordination, everybody is trying to just finch his own side and what have you. And I agree with you. That might really take Kano back a bit. But what we are happy is that the governor is not distracted. This is not the time for politics. This is the time for action to deliver on his mandate given by the good people of Kano State to make sure that he has fulfilled all the campaign promises. And today, if you check his blueprint, the one I said is 70 pages, I'm sure you will give him a pass mark because he has achieved most of the campaign promises at this time across the most critical sectors of the economy in Kano State.
I want to say many thanks to you, Sanusi Bature, the Chief Press Secretary to the Kano State government, for your time here on Newsday.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.